Hey friends, just a quick reminder before we get into today's episode, come join us over on our Patreon. That's where we release bonus episodes every other week, and we've already got over 20 episodes from 2023 that you can download and binge right now for as little as $3 a month. We've covered so many good books there: Haunting Adeline, Chateau, Gothicana, and so many more. That's also where we'll cover any books in a series we continue, so Serpent and Dove, High Mountain Court, Serpent and the Wings of Night. You can continue those series with us on Patreon right now. Finally, as a patron, we let you know what we're going to read every month, so you can read along with us if that's your jam. Anyway, that's all from me. On to today's episode.
I have a feeling this recording is going to be a little bit short because I have 9 pages of notes, and at least one of those is book 2.
Okay. Book 2 or part 2?
Book 2.
Okay.
I said what I said. Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
Okay, so let's get into it. So what are we talking about today, girl?
Today we're talking about Killer Beauty by Eva Chance and Harlow King. So we have a dual authorship here. Which, quick side note, I can't tell why there's 2 authors. Because, either they're... Okay, so you and I have started a book that I fully plan to finish before we die, where we have a mix of narrators, perspective shifts, but we have different voices when we write, which I think works for perspective shifts. I don't know if Eva Chance and Harlow King just write identically, or if one of them was a partner in some other way, because I don't see voice shifts.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I had that same thought too. Even I'm thinking of the Zodiac Academy as another example of dual authorship.
Yeah.
But that works because they write different people, and they write differently enough that you can kind of tell who, one person's writing this person, another person's writing this person.
Yeah.
I didn't get that in this at all.
I didn't either. And that's not necessarily it's not a bad thing at all. I mean, if anything, it's a testament to their similarity, but it just, something about it just kind of bugs me for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more specifically about what it is that each of you did? That would be great.
Right. And the writing is what it is. My head is sort of why are there 2 of you? Did you need 2 of you?
Right. Did one of you edit?
Right, because that would be fine. But then I haven't seen them keyed as an author.
Right.
So, I don't know. Good for Eva and Harlow. They're probably besties. I hope they are.
Harlow King is a great name.
Harlow King is an amazing name. And I really like the first name Harlow.
I do too.
It's a good one.
Anyway, we digress.
Anyway, so Killer Beauty was published in 2021, and it is the first in a completed series known as the Chaos Crew. The book is 322 pages long, so that's a midi for us. Girl, we got to talk about this cover. Book. So for all of our listeners, when this book came up next on our schedule, I immediately sent Katie a screenshot of the cover because it's just
a lot.
It's a lot. When you think of trashy romance, it's kind of exactly what you would expect it to be. You have this muscly man with really, I'm sorry, poorly edited clip art tattoos superimposed on his body. And a girl, a generic brunette with like a men's dress shirt falling off of her shoulders, and she has like one leg up on his hip and like one leg around his neck. And the background is like black and red neon lights or something.
Yeah, I also have to correct you because that would be wild if what you said was true. It's her arm, not her other leg, that's around his neck.
Oh shit, you're right.
I was like, what?
I knew that was her arm. I was just distracted by the leg on his hip.
No, fully, I get that. Yeah, this, wow. So many things. And I don't, the yips, I have them today. I'm so sorry. This cover is very indicative of what we're about to read. So maybe it's here that we should say, fair, gentle reader. This book is fun. It's not good.
No.
Just like the cover.
It lives up to all the promise that the cover makes.
Yeah.
Also,
that.
I'm looking at this series and the covers, and they are just
They're all bad.
They're all bad. But okay, can you look at Killer Rain? And
yeah.
His eyes are terrifying.
His whole cheek situation, I hate that.
I hate it. And it just like the bad clip art tattoos just really make it, I think.
Yeah, I can't really tell if they're clip art or if somebody took a Sharpie, but they're far too like dark, I guess.
Yeah, they're just, and they don't fit the body parts that they're on.
Yeah, they don't move with the body parts.
No, which just seems
bad.
Also, none of these men on these covers are what I pictured these characters to be.
No, they don't exist like that for me. One, they're far too tan, especially the bald one that's supposed to be Talon in Killer Heart.
Yeah.
He's described as being not tan.
No. And this guy kind of looks like The Rock, like a knockoff The Rock.
I was going to say Vin Diesel, but sure.
Oh, yeah, okay. And both of those I don't like.
No, I mean, the Rock is a wonderful human.
No, I like
I
those
think Vin
actors.
Diesel is too.
Yeah,
right,
I don't
but
like,
I'm not attracted to them.
No, I don't like that vibe for this character.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not disappointed by the cover because it is exactly what we get. The promise and the delivery are indeed there. But now that you've said the spoiler about who she sleeps with in this book, I don't understand why this cover then is not that character.
I don't either. Yeah, which I don't know. I guess makes me hopeful that we will actually get a reverse harem here and not just like she sleeps with a different one each book.
Right, which would be it would be disappointing for many reasons, but it'd be particularly confusing if she sleeps with the one that's not on the cover in each book.
Yeah.
Like
that
what?
Would be, why are we here?
I don't know. So I feel like this book is a bit of a departure from what we've been recently reading, but still very
100%.
on brand for our goal here as Spice Traders.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't fall into the romantasy vibe. And like that's not all we read, to be fair. Yeah, but it's most of what we read, and I don't know. It is a very good example of just like the trashy modern, like based in reality books.
Exactly. And we got a lot of thoughts here.
So many thoughts, yeah.
So with that being said, let's get into it. Katie, take it away.
Okay, girl. So this is going to be part 1 of 2, and part 1's going to cover chapters 1 through 14. This book is on Kindle Unlimited, so hey, girl, what's up? We don't get a whole lot of information, but there's not like a trigger list, for example. But there are a lot of triggers for this book, and so please pay attention to those in our show notes.
You know, I didn't notice that there wasn't a trigger list, but there really should have been.
I feel like there really should have been. There's a lot happening in this book that is
triggering,
deeply upsetting.
Yeah, which I have thoughts about. Yeah. Also.
Anyway, we start out with Decima, And I'm going to be real honest. I had no idea if this was a man or a woman at first.
Me either.
I mean, like, Decima, maybe if it was Decimo, maybe it would be a man. It is a woman, spoilers, guys. But, like, it was unclear.
My fourth note is, wait, is this a male or a female? Also, I hate the name Decima. And then I had the thought that it's probably a play on the word decimate. And I hated that even more.
Oh, man. Yeah, I tried to give it zero thoughts.
Which, you know, as you should. As you should.
But yeah, not my favorite name. But here we are. It's fine. None of these names really are my favorite.
No, they're terrible. Also, I can't remember the leader's name. I want to call him Jasper. Is it Julius?
Julius. I do like Julius as a name. But
I like Julius as a name. Blaze is a stupid name.
That's the only one.
Talon is a stupid name. And Garrison is a stupid name.
Yeah, so spoilers. Those are the dudes. Anyway.
Sorry.
So Decima is some kind of killer, and she lives in a house exclusively being trained to kill people. Her physical trainer is a woman named Noelle, and I guess her soft skills trainer / caregiver is a woman named Anna. These are the only people she sees on a regular basis unless she's on a mission or there's a special trainer brought in to teach her some specific skill. She doesn't even know how many other people live in the, quote, household, as she calls it. She's been there since she was very, very young enough to think that Anna might be her mother after she learned what a family is from reading a book.
I have so many fucking questions about her backstory, but I gotta, for some reason, I like came in really hard on this book because she talks about learning what a family is from reading a book. And then she says something like how she doesn't like to read, like it's a waste of time, or like she just can't get into it. And at this point, I still wasn't sure if this was a man or a woman. And my note says, I'm immediately turned off that he doesn't like to read. Big dumb oaf.
Woof. You're not wrong. Anyway, so we meet Decima on a night when she's restless without knowing why. So she tries to masturbate, and this is when I found out that she was a woman.
What a way for that to be revealed.
Right. But she's interrupted when Anna opens the door to her rooms. This is unusual, and it quickly becomes clear that Anna is hurt, dying, in fact, from several gunshot wounds. Before she dies in Decima's arms, she says garlic milkshake and says she's played dead until they left so she could free Decima, that she couldn't leave her there all alone.
The garlic milkshake, I want to come back around. Also, just to put a finer point on this, she came to free Decima because Decima is kept locked in some hidden room in this house.
Yeah, no windows. And only, like, 2 doors.
Right. That she can't exit through.
Yeah, you can't open them from the inside of her room.
Do we get answers for that in this book?
No. I mean, we get, it's kind of. I'll say kind of.
Okay, that sounds good. Because I repeatedly had the question of, like, why is she a prisoner in her own home? Why is she imprisoned here? Where's her family? How did she get here?
Yeah, I mean, so it's very clear at the end of this book that, like, finding out finer answers to those questions are what the rest of the books in the series are going to be about.
All right, cool.
So Decima decides to go through the rest of the house, which she's never seen before, and it's a bloodbath. There are so many people slaughtered in a very gruesome way. She's never met any of them to her knowledge. They've all been stripped of weapons and any other defining features. And it strikes Decima that this massacre was particularly savage, markedly so, in a way that you would have to try to do. Like, this wasn't just an accident.
Yeah, like, it is really gruesome off the bat. And she describes, like, how some of these people must have been stabbed in certain ways intentionally for there to be, like, specific blood spatter patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to make it as bloody as possible.
She even sees, like, one particular wound that, like, starts at a collarbone and goes, like, up to the other side of a person's neck, and it's, like, almost in the shape of a lightning bolt. And she's like, okay, now you're just, like, gilding the lily. Like that's not even a convenient way to kill somebody.
Right. Like you're just doing this to do it.
So besides Anna, who is dead in the secret doorway to Decima's room, she also sees a body of a woman who could be Noelle, but she can't tell because the woman's face has been shot beyond recognition.
Gross. And there's like a lot of people.
There's a surprising number of people.
Yeah, this house is essentially a mansion full of dead bodies.
Right. So Decima decides to grab jewels and money that she finds in a bedroom upstairs, and she also takes some spare clothes from her room and a tiny stuffed tiger that she's had for as long as she can remember. She stuffs all of it in a duffel bag, and then she decides to leave. Before she does so, she moves Anna's body out of the doorway to her room to close it. Her rooms are behind a hidden bookshelf, and something in the back of her head is like, it's probably a good thing for my presence in this house to remain a secret.
But she doesn't seem bothered by the fact that she's been hidden. Like, I just have so many questions, and I know it doesn't matter, but, like, she makes a comment of, like, that she's surprised how well hidden her doors are.
Yeah.
But she doesn't seem like, she's not like, huh, that's weird that no one else has hidden doors. Huh. Like, she's just like, I guess I'm free now.
So I will say that that particular reaction makes sense in the context of her being essentially brainwashed since she was a young girl to not think for herself.
That's true. That is very true. She exists to do missions, and that's it.
You exist in the context around you and all of what came before you. So then she hoofs it over to the wall of the mansion complex and up and over. She would take a car, but they've all been disabled. And she vows to get revenge on whoever conducted this slaughter at the house. Basically killing everybody that she held dear.
Even though she doesn't know most of them, but she only holds 2 people dear, her trainers.
Yeah, she's got an incredible sense of loyalty to at least Noelle and Anna, and by extension, the rest of this, quote, household that she serves.
Yeah.
Very misplaced, but it runs very deep in her personality.
I do like some of the tidbits we get later of what the household is really up to, because, I mean, as we get further into it, I was starting to question, like, how do these forces unite?
Right, like, make this all make sense.
Yeah, which I sense the answers are coming. Like, I got some of them, but I was like, I don't buy it. Which, again,
yeah.
As I said in the debrief, there's a lot I just don't buy.
Yeah, there are holes large enough to find Atlantis in this story.
Oh, yeah.
Next, we get a ye olde perspective shift to a man named Julius. He is with his crew, the Chaos Crew,
Okay.
surveying the damage they've wrought on the house. It's their habit to watch the target afterward, just to make sure. And we're introduced to the other men in this crew. Blaze, the tech guy who sets up the cameras and is basically full of nervous energy. He's got pale red hair that brushes the collars of his shirt.
He has ADHD.
Talon, pale, shaved head, ice blue eyes. Garrison, the youngest and newest member of the crew, hazel eyes and shaggy blonde hair. And of course, Julius, who is the leader of the pack and who has dark hair and dark features.
This is where I was still just really aggressive about this book. And my note is, the Chaos Crew is a stupid name, like children playing pretend.
Yeah, it does strike me that this whole thing feels a little bit like children playing pretend.
It does. It does. I mean, I know that this is just like a merry band of murder hobos, legitimately. But
yeah, legitimately murder hobos.
Which I was really excited to be able to talk about murder hobos again, because it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, even when we go through and we see like what this crew does and like how they operate, just like amateur hour over here. Just like the 4 of these guys, the fact that they're ever all in the same place at once, I'm just like, that wouldn't happen.
No, I don't know how they get anything done.
I know.
And they're just very lackadaisical about a lot of the things that are going on.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about an example of the lackadaisical like things that don't make sense, because they make a point to say, or Julius does, hey, we set up cameras to watch the place that we were just in to make sure we didn't miss anybody. But clearly they didn't put any cameras in the house because they see Decima on one of the cameras and she just came out of nowhere. She didn't know these cameras existed, so, like, there's no way that she avoided being on camera. I kept, like, even when they told me this, as I read it, I was like, how did this happen?
I don't know. And so she, like, climbs a wall, right, and climbs over to walk around. But, you clearly did a bad job putting cameras around the property, too, that you didn't even see her scale the wall.
Exactly.
Like, not putting any cameras inside the house was a miss, but not putting cameras on every exit point was a bigger miss.
At least so you have, like, I'm thinking of, like, putting a camera so that you can see the whole length of the wall, you know?
Exactly. And we get all this, like, tech savvy information about Blaze that he can, like, hack into, like, community networking or whatever. And then, again, lackadaisical. And we'll get to it, but they go back to the house and there's, like, a camera that Decima points out. And that's, like, none of them knew it was there. And I'm like, was that not your camera?
Right. And we never get confirmation. Like, Blaze isn't it like, oh, yes, that's my camera. Like, what?
I know. It's bad. And they're just very chill. Like, we'll get to it, but there's this sense of threat about who hired them to murder this whole household. They don't really seem concerned about that either.
No, not really.
Not enough.
The guys can't tell if Decima is just a neighbor coming home late or what. So they decide to tail her and make an informed decision. One of their tenets as the Chaos Crew is to kill no innocent bystanders. So they don't just want to, like, annihilate this woman, even though they're, like, 50% sure that she came from the house.
Which is bullshit, because if you had done your job in the first place, you would know she came from the house.
I don't know how these people didn't find the secret rooms, because it's fairly obvious to me when I walk into some place whether there's missing space, you know?
Yeah, even in a mansion. And, like, her quarters aren't small. Like,
no.
There's multiple spaces in where she lives. So if you look at a house from the outside, it would be very clear that the inside space didn't match that, which just shows me again that these are kids playing pretend and they don't know how to do any recon.
Right.
Like, what?
The opposite of the TARDIS. It's smaller on the inside.
It's smaller on the inside, which is somehow more suspicious than being bigger on the inside.
Yes. So Julius and Garrison go on foot, and the other two hop into a car. When they get Decima in sight, they see her break into and hotwire a car parked on the street. They're impressed because she does this hyper quickly. She's in the car and driving away before anyone can wrap their minds around what's happening. And so they all end up piling into a car and following her. They remark that now it's even more unlikely that she's not involved in what just happened at the mansion.
Which, they have so many clues that, like, she was involved. There's something suspicious here. She was involved. She is not a normal person. And they just continue
They just drive right past
it.
it.
They just drive right past it. They're like, well, she's just troubled.
But
maybe. But maybe. Like,
Oh my god. And she has so many clues that they're not cops.
That's the thing. I don't believe that these two parties are just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Okay. And I also think that it's so in this specific situation, they're like, let's pile in one car and tail her. Weren't you guys just in a van or something, like, looking at the surveillance? Like, who? Take two cars, right? What are you going to do with one car tailing this person?
It doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense.
Because then, like, she cottons pretty quickly that she's being followed, and, like, they make it obvious that they're following her, and so she, like, panics, and then, like, well, we'll see in a minute, but, like, that doesn't go well for most people. And I'm just like, you could have avoided this by just having a little bit more forethought.
Just a touch.
Anyway. I did think it was funny that, like, all of them just started freaking out a little bit because she was, like, walking, and then she was breaking into a car, and then she was driving off within, like, 30 seconds, and they were just like, whoa!
I know. That's crazy.
It's crazy. Okay, so they end up chasing her through town because she clearly knows that she's being tailed, like I said. But then a car pulls out in front of her, and when she swerves to avoid it, she hydroplanes and crashes. It's worth noting here that though she has had training in driving, it's also at night and raining, and that training she was a little light on.
Yeah, she does not drive frequently. She drives occasionally when she's on missions, and she does... I don't know if it's here later, but it doesn't really matter. She makes a point to say that all of her missions last maybe 3 days tops.
Right.
Like, she's rarely away from home.
I don't buy this either, though.
No!
Like, if I was training a killer assassin to leave as little behind in terms of clues as possible, I would train that bitch in everything. Like, driving in the rain blindfold at night.
Yeah, because she's a professional assassin. I feel like she's been handicapped in so many ways, and I don't understand if that was intentional or just poor character development.
Yeah. That. Anyway, we're asking a lot from this book.
I know, that's why I'm like, it's these plot holes. I have big old questions. It also doesn't matter.
It also super doesn't matter. So Decima crashes and immediately knows that she's fucked. She grabs her bag of stuff and stumbles out into the street. One of her wrists is broken, and the other arm and some ribs are bruised. In the street, the men surround her and try to convince her to let them help her. She doesn't, and when she turns to leave, she feels a pinch in her back and everything goes black. Okay, several things about this scene. First, where is the other car in this? 2, does nobody find it odd that this woman crashes and then these 4 burly ass dudes get out of a car and they're just like, hey, baby, why don't you let us help you? Like, what the fuck? And then they never go back for the car. Like, this whole thing is a ruse that she's like, oh, I'm running, blah, blah. They just leave the car.
And, like, I'm sorry, the poor owner of this car. I had another question because the airbags deploy. And thank God I've never been in an accident where airbags have, like, gone off. But she talks about, like, chemicals, like, burning her eyes. Does that happen?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That definitely happens.
Why?
I don't know why it happens, but I think it's... And I might be talking out of my ass here, so don't come for me. But I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the stuff that they're packed in.
Yeah.
Does it feel great?
Right. Like, they just don't know a better way to do that. I always thought it was just like compressed air. No, there's clearly other. I just needed to know about that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's still a thing. I do know also that, like, when airbags deploy, you can also get hit in the face with the part that, like, concealed them.
I did know that can, like, break your face.
Yeah.
Like, airbags, it's almost like they can do more harm than good.
Depending on the accident you get in, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I always think about, like, on they have it, this is really a digression, but on the visor there's the little picture, typically in some cars, of, like, the picture of a car seat in the front seat and an airbag going off and, like, just demolishing the top of the car seat. Yeah. Terrifying to me every time.
Yeah, every single time. So it's worth noting here that she's trying to get away from these men, and she's saying very specific things like, I'm all set. I don't want to go to the hospital. I just want to go home. Please leave me alone. And they don't.
They don't. They don't at all. They swarm around her, and they're very cajoling, like, oh, we can't possibly leave you here. You're not okay.
Right. In any other circumstances besides this romance book, this would be so problematic.
Yeah, and it is problematic, but in this context, like, it is what it is, I guess. But you're right. I don't understand where the other car went. I don't understand how no one saw this.
All good questions.
Questions. This is just one of many examples that I think we're both going to be like, all right, listen, let me just lay out the problems here.
Right. Like, I hear the problems we're talking about. Doesn't change the fact that I had a great time.
Exactly.
And I know some of you are going to say like, oh, that's not fair. You rate books differently. Absolutely, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
We have never made any promises to be consistent in our feelings.
No, our ratings are our opinions. So,
Which we
sorry
do
if they're
say
not
at the
consistent.
top of every episode.
That's true. We do what we say we are going to do.
We deliver. Just like this book did with the cover.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, so the four guys take her to one of their safe houses that has a basement. Ostensibly, they choose this one because if they need to torture her, no one will hear them in the basement.
No one will hear you scream.
Woof. They put her in the room with the smallest windows so she can't use them to escape. And then they go through her bag and are alarmed but are also confused. They're like, okay, the jewels and the money could be tied to it, but then they also find the clothes and the tiger, and they're like, okay, are you just running away from something, or were you at the house? Like, confused.
I am weirdly attached to this tiger.
Yes.
Like, I need the tiger to just be always there.
You and her both are very attached to the tiger. So my thing about them going through her bag is like, would you not have taken an inventory of everything in the house?
Okay. They are bad at their job.
Yep.
Because she takes jewelry, like, off of the bodies.
Well, I don't actually remember if she takes them off the bodies or like from someplace, but like,
Well, yeah,
they
that's
go
true.
through the house, like they scan the house and then they make sure to say that like they removed IDs and weapons. I don't know where those IDs and weapons went because she never found them.
Yeah.
But then they tell the client at some point later on, they're like, we didn't take anything from the house. I'm like, how do you know that? Also, that's kind of a lie because she took the weapons and the IDs. So like, which is it?
Also, why would you take the IDs?
I don't know. What are you going to do with them?
What are you gonna do with them? I don't know.
Anyway, just another gaping hole.
There's
In this story.
many questions. But yeah, you would take an inventory. Especially because the whole issue with the client is like, you missed something or whatever. And they're like, no, we didn't. Like, you don't know that.
Something was taken. Like, okay.
Yes, the lives of 40 humans. Yes.
Yeah, we did take those. Yes, that was part of the contract.
We were hired to do so.
So then they also do this creepy thing where they check her over for injuries.
Yeah, that was creepy.
And under her clothes on her stomach and back, she's littered with scars from her work. But again, they also present as signs of abuse. So the men remain conflicted. They do admit to each other that she's hot, toned and lean with dark hair.
That was kind of gross.
Yeah, it was gross. I was like, really? We're doing this?
It was gross.
Yeah. Also, did you all have to be like send in one dude to do that?
I know. Well, and then they like lie to her later where they're like someone, I don't know what happens, but she comments on like, did you do anything when I was asleep? And they're like, nope, we didn't even look at you. And I'm like, you're a fucking liar.
What a weird question. No, we didn't do that. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Nope.
Okay. So when Decima wakes up, Julius is there and asks whether she wants to go to the hospital. She says she does, but when she tries to stand up, she topples over from lightheadedness. Julius tells her to rest and they can go when she's steadier on her feet. Which for me, I'm like, isn't that the reason you go to the hospital?
I was just going to say that. Like, if anything, that's more of a sign to like, call me an ambulance.
A fucking ambulance.
Right now.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, you're kind of unsteady. You should rest more and then we'll go to what? No.
This make sense.
She's unsteady because you fucking drugged her.
Right. And she was in a car accident. She's got a concussion.
Yeah. Stupid.
So a while later, she wakes up and goes into the main area to find all four men kind of milling around. They ask her name and she says, Des Parker. And then she asks theirs. It seems Garrison may be the one who cooks in this reverse harem because he's the one in the kitchen. I rescind that. It's clearly not Garrison. It's definitely Blaze.
It's definitely Blaze, the sensitive one.
Yeah. In this scene, though, Garrison and Talon kind of play good cop, bad cop. But Decima immediately clocks that Garrison, like, his expressions are not genuine because he changes them on a dime.
He's
so
creepy.
While he's playing good cop, she doesn't really buy it. So Talon gets in her face and asks her questions like, why was she in that part of town? What was she doing? And why doesn't she have anybody to call? And she gets just as defensive and tells him that she didn't ask for their help and doesn't know them anything.
You kidnapped me.
Right. Garrison gives her hot chocolate, which he's never had before, but Decima is still wary of his easy manners. The more they ask, the more she suspects that they suspect her of doing more than stealing a car.
This is also just so weird, part of her imprisonment, because she was allowed to have chocolate once a year.
On her birthday?
Why?
Yeah. It's all very sad.
It's all very sad. And this continues to be a thing where she talks about the chocolate. Also, going back and talking about the scene, it is really weird because Garrison's the one who like gives her the hot chocolate and playing the good cop. But for the rest of the book, he is like the surly mean one. So like this is a very strange take.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying here that like Garrison is supposed to be the charismatic one and like supposed to be able to get information out of basically everybody. And so like he tries to do that once here. And when he doesn't like get what he wants or he's like not successful, he like takes that super personally and then is like a grumpopotamus for the rest of the book.
Yeah, you're right. But he doesn't try that hard.
No, he tries once and then like the scene lasts 5 minutes because he fucking drugs her.
It's fucking wild.
And it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot because like you're drugging her. She knows that something's wrong, and so she's going to be even more wary of you because you're the one that gave her the hot chocolate.
Exactly. And she is, but whatever.
Anyway. So we shift then to Garrison's perspective, who's having, like we said, an impossible time reading Decima at all. She reacts to nothing as he would expect her to and seems utterly unflappable. He can't even tell what's a lie and what's real. All he knows is that she's enjoying the hot chocolate he slipped sleeping pills into and that he's into her.
She's a brick wall.
When the pills start hitting, Decima excuses herself, saying she needs more rest, and she tries to keep it together and just manages to do so before closing the doors to her room. Real dick move. Just like, why?
I don't understand why they drug her immediately.
Yeah, like, you wanted to get information out of her, like, at least let her be awake for a couple of hours. Jesus.
Right, it doesn't make sense to me. And then he's like, oh, I couldn't talk to her that long. I'm like, because you jumped the gun. I don't...
Right. You immediately decided to drug her with sleeping pills.
It's fucking weird.
Anyway. So Garrison then gets a call from the client, who is furious because something was taken from the house. It's obvious to us as the reader that the thing, quote unquote, is Decima, but the client is tight-lipped. And Garrison knows that the client left out information about the job. We learn in this situation that Garrison is kind of a chameleon, so he is the one that engages with the clients, which I thought was kind of odd since he's the newest member. And he, like, does all of these different voices to make them think that they're talking to different humans, which I thought was just kind of a really funny thing to picture, like this big burly dude just like, hello, you've reached the Chaos Crew.
I thought that was funny, too, and I wanted to see more of that.
I did too. I hope we will see more of that in the next book.
Because he even has this moment of like this thought of, okay, back up. So the client is like, I want to talk to who I talked to last time. And Garrison kind of giggles to himself and like debates changing voices to like pretend like a new person was brought on the line.
Right.
I just think it's silly.
So that call doesn't go well, and the client is like threatening them with retribution if the thing that they took isn't taken back to the house. Which again, like, I'm surprised they didn't take an inventory of what was in the house so they can prove that like that they didn't take anything. Like, it's such a weird situation.
It's such a weird situation, and this is another place where Garrison's supposed to be the information retriever, but I don't think he tries very hard to be like, what kind of thing? This is what we took. Was it one of those things?
Right,
Like-
exactly. Like, he kind of throws attitude right back at this guy. And I'm like, is that the best way to get what you want?
No, especially because they're suspicious of Decima too. So, like, why not try and get more information? Like, you're trying to figure out if she's connected. This guy might know if she is connected. And you're just like, don't question us. Or it's like,
Right, especially at that point, because they don't have any reason to think, like, they don't have any soft spot for her yet. So they could have been like, there was a woman that we encountered walking around the premises shortly after. Is that what you're talking about?
exactly. It just doesn't make any sense.
So he goes back inside and they try to look up Decima online, and they find a profile that is so painfully normal. Almost too normal, but nothing is an immediate red flag. Even Blaze is like, you know, something like this usually gives me something that I can go off of, like some imperfection, but this, while boring, doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah, and it's boring, but it's not... Kind of like you said, he doesn't get any of the red flags that this is fake either.
Right.
Like, there's no red flags. There's no indication that this is like a dummy profile. There's enough information that it could be a real person. There's just nothing.
Yeah. So when Decima wakes up, she's increasingly certain that if she tries to leave the apartment, that it'll mean a fight. So she eats with them, though she insists on making her own plate after the hot chocolate. Then she watches the news, looking for anything about the massacre. She's certain that by this point it should have made the news, but she doesn't see anything. So she borrows a computer from Blaze to look it up. Blaze and Garrison both offer to help since her poker face isn't as good, and it's clear that she can't find what she's looking for. Even though she clears her browsing history after she looks without success, I can't help but think that Blaze was monitoring whatever she was searching in real time. And although that's not really the case, like, I mean, he pulls up the browsing history as soon as she gives the laptop back. And I'm like, okay, I don't buy that your poker face sucks, and I don't buy that you don't know how the internet works.
No, because we get so much information previous to this and later that she's a really good social chameleon, and she is good at keeping a poker face, so that doesn't make sense to me. It also would make more sense if Blaze were, like, on his phone in real time. Also, were there no cell phones left in the house? Like, it just baffles me that she took money and jewelry and her tiger, but there's no laptops, there's no phones, like, there's nothing else she could have used.
I mean, yeah, that, and then also, like, I feel like if she was really who she says she is, right? Who we are led to believe that she is, like this world-class assassin. If you don't see something on the news, that should be your first indication that something is wrong.
Yep.
And then leave it there.
Yep. But no, that's not what happens.
Yeah. So she gives the laptop back, and Blaze looks up what she was looking for and sees the searches for massacres, household murders, all of those things within the last 24 hours, and she knows that the jig is up. So she tries to make a break for it. She gives the guys a good fight, but is too injured and not up to her full strength. And when she tries to break a window to leave, they subdue her and tie her to a chair.
She also seems to be unreasonably confident about her skills. Like, she tells us, the reader, that if she weren't injured, she could easily take all four of them. And I'm just like, really? Like, maybe one of them? Like, one-on-one, I could buy that. But, like, you're gonna take on 4 grown assassins?
With guns? I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
Okay, this is also one of those, because she's injured, right? But she still gets, like, each one of them, she gets, like, a good hit or 2 in.
Yeah.
And, like, even after this, we'll see that they're like, I don't know, maybe she's just really good at MMA or something. And I'm like, guys,
Well,
listen to yourselves.
have we gotten her... She hasn't given them her, like, fake backstory yet, has she?
No, we're about to get to it.
Okay, great, because I have thoughts.
So let's get there. So the guys lie and say that they're undercover cops investigating the murder at the house. She says that she's pretty sure kidnapping is illegal no matter how many badges you have, and they say that they have far more leeway than regular cops because they're undercover cops. I'm like, oh boy.
That doesn't make sense. Also, if you are undercover cops investigating a murder, that doesn't explain why you were there within hours of the murder happening.
Yeah.
When it's not on the news, like, how did you know about it? She doesn't question that.
Nope. So they're investigating this murder and they need to know if she was involved. She lies and says that her friend Anna used to let her stay there, but Anna's parents didn't like Decima. So Decima used to sneak in. She did that the night before, and when she found the bodies, she panicked. They seem to buy it, at least enough to release her from the chair, but they don't let her go. It's clear that they're going to keep her until they, quote, solve the murders. And I'm like, what is the end game here, guys?
That is a question I had so many times. So many times.
I think it's here that she tells them that she's fleeing an abusive boyfriend.
Yeah. So, yeah, that she's fleeing an abusive boyfriend. But what bothered me is that it is here that they're just all so stupid. Like, she says that she flees because she sees the bodies, and they question her about, like, the jewelry. And she's like, oh, yeah, I stole that. And they're like, so you went to your friend's house, found them all dead, and then robbed them? And she's like, yeah. And they're like, that makes sense.
Cool. That tracks.
And she's just like, are you going to arrest me for that? And they're like, nah.
They're definitely, like, they're buying into this, like, economically poor stereotype that, like, people who are destitute make really bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I guess they're allowing that to blind their, like, logical reasoning, because that story is full of holes.
It's full of so many holes, because again, you don't even know that she came out of the house because your surveillance sucks. So not only did you not see her sneak in, but you didn't see her sneak out.
Right. Make that make sense.
Because they were watching it the whole time. And ostensibly, Anna comes in, frees her, like, immediately after the murders happened, right? Because she's dying.
Right.
So, like, they had barely made it back to their van when she sneaks out.
Okay, but the other thing about that is, like, either your surveillance has a whole fuck ton of holes in it, or you didn't run that shit back. So let's say that, like, you turn the cameras on, like, after she vaulted the walls, like, and your cameras covered that part of the walls. You didn't rewind it to, like, watch the whole feed.
Right. Because if she was only there for, like, 20 minutes, you should have seen her enter the house that you're surveilling.
Yep. Anyway, I just make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. We're not here for that.
No,
I get it.
I get it. But I will continue to question it.
I will continue to question it, yes. So then we see the guys debating what to do from Blaze's perspective, and they are split. 2 of them want to hand Decima over to the client, and 2 of them don't. Julius ultimately makes the call that they're going to take her to the house under the guise of letting her, quote, help their fake investigation. And if she puts one hair out of line, they'll handle her. By handle, I mean kill.
Yep.
They desperately don't want to hurt her if she's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, though. So this seems like a happy, like, I don't know. I don't know what they're expecting her to do at the house.
I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what the end game is here.
No.
Because if she is the thing that the client is missing, what are you going to gain by keeping her?
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, like, cut her loose, because she's... I don't know what they think that she's a part of, but she's clearly not showing you the competence of, like, being a part of this criminal underground, right?
Nope.
So, like, cut her loose.
Also,
no one will ever know.
Also, their whole, we don't kill innocent people, but you're hired assassins. Like, sure, we get the story that, like, the household was up to no good. Fine. Are you...
No bystanders?
How can you
There wasn't staff in the household?
Right, like, how can you be sure that everyone in the house was safe? And clearly whoever hired you is Bad News Bears, too. So, like... what do you gain by keeping her? Because they're basically just waiting to see if they should kill her. But if you're working a job that you were hired to do and she's the thing that's missing, why not just give her back?
Right.
Or like their other side is like, well, if the client is bad, we should protect her. Why? I thought you didn't want to protect bad people.
Right. You don't know. And they even say this at some point. They have no recourse to understand who the client is. Like, which also seems like a bad idea.
What?
But like,
yeah. And you can't tell me you don't kill innocent people, bystanders, if you don't even know who hired you to do this.
Right. Right. Anyway.
But okay. All right.
So Blaze heads inside and offers Decima breakfast. She timidly makes herself some cereal, and she and Blaze talk. He tells her that it's nice to have a pretty face and other ideas around. He figures just because they don't trust her doesn't mean he can't flirt. A strand of Decima's hair falls in her face, and he goes to push it back, but she reacts poorly to this by pinning him to the counter in a blink of an eye. She tells him not to touch her, and she says more vocally to everybody else in the room she doesn't want anybody to touch her. And Blaze can see the feral panic and menace in her face as she says this. The other guys have their guns drawn and tell her to step away. And though she does, they're all just like, what the fuck just happened? Blaze wonders internally whether his advocacy for her was a mistake.
But also, why? Like, she's allowed to not want to be touched by strange men.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys were... Okay, again, this is why women pick a bear. If you guys were literally anybody else, she would be in danger.
Yeah.
If this was the real world and not a romantic comedy, like, we would be in trouble.
We would be very, very scared.
So we learned from Decima's internal monologue that she hadn't meant to hurt Blaze, but that she was reacting to his overtures because she had been raped in the past by somebody who ostensibly was acting romantic and telling her sweet nothings and doing, all of the right things on the surface, but not stopping when she said that she was done.
So, this is going to sound really heartless, but this whole ongoing trope of her having like rape trauma really bothered me because we already know that she is an established assassin. She's been kept prisoner in some house. So also, when did you have this relationship? But that's fine. I just feel like this was unnecessary and it keeps like repeatedly popping up. And I'm just like, I just don't think this is needed.
It felt very much like in the book that we just read. What was it? Coven? Yeah. Where she had like multiple traumas. Like there was the burying alive thing and then there was also the Fight Club thing. Like pick one.
That's exactly how it felt. I'm like, I think she has enough trauma and like things that we could go on that this isn't necessary. And it also doesn't really work because you're telling me she has this trauma, but until Blaze like reached for her, she's been pretty chill being locked in a house with 4 strange men.
Yeah.
Which is
like,
not...
If you really were upset.
Yeah, like that's not how you would be.
Well, and it's not even a part of her internal monologue, right? It's not even a part of like, oh, I'm trapped in a house with these men. She's afraid that they're going to like try to start a fight with her, but she's confident she can win. She's not afraid of them raping her.
No, which doesn't track for a victim of assault.
Yeah. Anyway.
But it just bothered me. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Either do or don't, but don't do this halfway thing.
No, it just felt like a cop-out.
Yeah.
Let's give her trauma.
So the 5 of them go to the house and they walk the perimeter so as not to draw attention, which Decima accepts since they are undercover cops, right? But, okay, and this is another thing where all 5 of you, and you all have sunglasses and baseball hats on so the cameras don't pick up your faces. That looks suspicious as fuck. I don't buy that.
Also, the cameras that you ostensibly control?
Right.
And this house is surrounded by walls. It would be more inconspicuous for you to go into the house.
Well, but then she would realize that all the bodies are still there and, like, the cops should have cleaned that up by now.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't give them that much credit.
But still, like, send Julius and Decima. Don't all 4 of you fucking go with her. Like,
no.
You look like you're the Secret Service guarding somebody going out for a jog.
And the way they walk is kind of like this flower pattern. Like, she's in the middle and there's like 2 dudes in the front and 2 dudes in the back. Like, it's not how a group of 5 would walk.
No, that's what I'm saying. They look like her personal guards. Like, you guys are so suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense.
And Des, our God's perfect idiot, like, she just takes this at face value. She's like, yep, that tracks.
Also, even if it's an undercover investigation, there's no crime scene tape. There's nothing.
She doesn't ask to see a badge.
Okay. She takes
Even undercover cops have to carry a badge. Like,
exactly. She takes it all at face value. And undercover cops don't have like a hidey house. They would have taken you to the station.
it just
It just doesn't make sense.
So as they walk around, they like ask her to point out things that look out of the ordinary because she's familiar with the house, right? So she points out a camera that seems new and a spot where the vines are detached from the wall that the perps likely used to vault over. They then produce the jewelry that she took and advise her to chuck it over the wall. They think that it's what the client wants, and she thinks it's them wanting to keep her from being arrested, so she does it.
Which makes no sense because returning the jewelry to the scene of the crime does no more to protect you than the cops just not reporting the fact that you stole jewelry. If they were even
because your fingerprints are still all over it, bitch.
Right? And now it's in like a Ziploc bag in the front yard.
Right. Just... I can't.
I have so many fucking questions.
So, okay, just speaking of more questions, then Decima convinces them to go on a walking tour under the pretext of seeing if she can see anything else out of place, like on her route from her abusive boyfriend's place to this place, which doesn't make any sense because she was not the target of the massacre. So why would anything on her route from her boyfriend's place to the mansion, which is fictional anyway, but why would anything be out of place on that route in her made up alibi?
It wouldn't. And this whole like, let's see if you notice anything. All I could think was like, God forbid something tragic happened at your house and there were actual undercover cops. If someone took me to your house, I wouldn't be able to like, yeah, that's out of place. Especially like in your neighborhood. Like there are some things
Yeah.
that I would notice if they were like missing from your house. But like vines being disturbed, like and I'm just picturing like walking from like fucking Marla's house to yours and be like, is anything out of place here? And be like, I don't know.
I don't fucking know, man. I mean, I live here and I couldn't tell you if something was out of place on my neighbors.
No. And so you're also going to tell me that you were fleeing from your abusive boyfriend, but you were observant enough, which again, it doesn't matter anyway, because that wouldn't be related at all.
Right.
So they
also, the boyfriend doesn't exist. But
also,
look,
good point.
but no, look, I'm with you. I'm so with you. So the reason that she wants to do this is she wants to lead them to a cookie shop because there's a contact there whom Noelle had introduced Decima to before. So they get to this strip mall where the cookie shop is, and she's like, well, let's stop here because I don't want to actually see my boyfriend. That would be a mess. And they're like, we can take him. And I'm like, what are we doing? So she goes inside under the guise of buying cookies for everyone to thank them or whatever. And the contact waits on her. He's a young man with a beard. He knows what happened and at the household and offers his condolences. And he's surprised that she made it out alive. He says that someone is looking for her and said that if anyone were to see Decima, that they tell her, quote, the woman in the polka dot dress wants Noelle's black-winged sparrow to pay her a visit, end quote. Fortunately, Decima knows exactly what this means. She just needs to figure out how to get to the woman in the polka dot dress.
How do so many people know about the murders?
Yeah,
Because it's been like a day.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question.
Cool.
I I have no idea.
I have no idea.
So back outside, all of the guys take their cookies with varying degrees of couth, but they all enjoy it, and Decima takes it as a win.
I know.
What kind of win? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now they're just going to tell you everything because you gave them some cookies?
So later on, 3 of the guys go out and leave Decima in Talon's custody. She decides to work out with the punching bag that's in the living room, but halfway through, Talon interrupts her and asks to join. He's a good match for her, and she enjoys the challenge, but ultimately he beats her, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm an injured opponent. What a good win for you, I roll. There's heat between them in this exchange, but he tells her to go to bed, basically putting the kibosh on anything further. She tells him that she's not a child and won't be ordered around. He tells her he's very aware that she's not a child, but it's their apartment and their rules, so she's going to go to bed.
Stupid conversation.
So stupid.
I wish this had
because he like eyes her up and down and he's like, I'm aware, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, and I felt like this was a miss, especially now knowing where they go, because I wish that this had like built into the banter more. Like if he like build up that smuttiness of it, because if he's like, oh yeah, go to bed, she could have been like, you gonna join me?
Yeah,
like,
but he's the brick wall of the pack.
He is the brick wall. And I also, she is a confusingly written character, because as socially savvy as we are told that she is, like out with strangers, she's not. And I mean, the whole like, that's where the whole rape backstory got me all kind of tied up, because like, she's supposed to be socially savvy. She tells us that she uses all of the like tools in her tool belt to do her job, like when she's sent out to kill people, which would include flirty, sexy like interactions that ostensibly look a lot like the time when she was raped. And then she has like very confident things like this, which even though they're not great on the execution from like a reader's standpoint, like they're supposed to be kind of fun, sexy, flirty interactions, right? That are kind of sweet. Yeah, like we hear about...
And she reacts just fine.
Like we hear about like him looking her up and down and like the heat in his eyes, and they're in like close contact. That doesn't trigger anything for you? Okay.
Yeah, nothing? Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
So although she resists at first, she does go to bed, and she ultimately takes out her tiger toy and cuddles it. She feels more like a child alone and lost than she wants to admit.
Wow.
So the next day, Julia says that they are taking her somewhere, but before she can get any answers to where, they are ambushed in the apartment by masked attackers. There are smoke bombs, and initially Decima sees her way out, but she thinks internally that these are effectively innocent men trying to protect her. And does she really want to be the type of person who just stands by while more innocent people die? So she ends up helping them fight the masked attackers off. She kills 3 of them, and when she thinks that they have things under control, she tries to go for the door, but her undercover cops stop her in her tracks.
This scene also just like doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how someone who should be on her guard and supposedly has a traumatic rape background thinks that these are innocent gentlemen just helping her.
Yeah, I just look. She's an idiot. Like, they're both idiots. I don't understand how they don't think that she's an assassin, and I don't understand how she thinks they're cops.
They see her, like, one of them specifically watches her like grab these attackers' heads, twist his head, breaks his neck, and like drop him to the floor, and they're just like, wow, she's been trained really well.
Literally, what context of MMA is that appropriate for?
Also, this kind of dips into the next part, but it's like immediately after, so I don't feel bad saying it now, and I'll say it again. But like, they have this dialogue later of like, yeah, she didn't really seem fazed by murdering anyone, but who knows what kind of shit she's seen in her past. And I'm like, no normal human being is unfazed by murdering 3 people in cold blood.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of trauma you have. That's not a thing. Unless you have murdered people.
They're walking by the fact that, like, there were smoke bombs and it was, like, an ambush. Like, any normal person wouldn't be ready for that.
No. And she's just like, let's go.
La 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 la.
I just, and. It doesn't make...
Another one.
It doesn't make sense to me that you would be like, these are innocent men. I'm going to try to save them. But then also escape. Like, pick one or the other, girl.
Right. Which is it? Are they innocent men or are they holding you captive? Like...
Because I'm pretty sure they're holding you captive.
That's what I saw.
And you're actively trying to escape. After saving that? Like, I just... Listen.
Look. Make it make sense. So yeah, that's where we're going to end part 1. And I do promise that in part 2 there is some smut.
Woo!
So you haven't signed up for this wild ride for nothing. But join us in 2 weeks to hear the shocking conclusion of book 1 of The Chaos Crew.
Killer Beauty.
Killer Beauty.
It's a stupid name too. I'm so sorry.
But it's about her. She's the Killer Beauty.
Obviously.
Liz, come on.
I'm so
Obviously.
sorry. My bad.
All right, guys. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Let us know what you thought on the socials. You can find us on basically all of the platforms at Spice Traders Pod. And if you like our podcast and want more, consider becoming a patron. If you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. And until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.